Hi, this is Micornus, Phokane, the leader and the founder of Church Governance Solutions. I'm dealing with a topic that speaks about challenges that pastors are going through, battles that pastors are going through that may not be known even by their congregations. And we speak about this because it's very important that as a pastor, you do self-reflection and you are able to identify those challenges and look at avenues of how to express them if you can, and be able to be delivered out of those, be able to actually source out some help from people that may be able to help you. There are people, there are individuals that are around you. You don't need to die alone in your corner. You don't need to die alone as a pastor in your situation, because there are solutions to every situation that you're faced with. But these are common problems and common challenges, and that is why we are addressing them, so that each and every pastor can be able to be helped through these situations when you're faced with this situation. The first situation that we want to deal with today, first battle, is that a lot of pastors, they are battling with debt and financial crisis. They are battling with debt and financial crisis. And some of the pastors, you find that they're in full-time ministries, and the congregation is not contributing much into the finances of the church. And the congregation is not supporting their pastor financially as well. And this is a very, very common challenge that pastors are going through. Because also remember that our pastors don't want to find themselves to be begging. They don't want to find themselves to be begging for food, begging for finances, begging for this. While God called them in these situations to lead and to guide us and to direct us spiritually and help us, it must be prerogative of every congregation to rise up and identify where the pastor has needs and assist, and step in and assist. But we find it difficult to find congregations that are very fully supportive to their pastors. And that is why the pastors will be actually faced up with debts. They'll be faced with financial crisis, and nobody rises up to help them in this regard. Why we speak about this is so that every member of a congregation that is listening to us right now, you must understand that your pastor needs finances, that your pastor needs to put food on the table, that your pastor needs also to look after their own families as well. And as they serve us, as they lead us, as they preach to us, as they help us to become the people that we are, we must also think for them, that we need to assist them, that they may not swim in debt and in financial crisis while we are there to assist them. And I want to emphasize this because it is something that is very crucial and very common in the churches, particularly Pentecostal churches. I want to address it and say it is very important to understand that pastors need finances as well. To understand that finances are not going to come from heaven and say, but God called them and God must supply. Remember that God supplies through us in the church, and God is not going to supply through angels. God is not going to rain finances for our pastors into their homes. God is going to use us as individuals. So therefore, it is very important that I emphasize that congregant members and all church members, all Christian community, we must understand that we need to take care of our pastors so that they may not swim in debts and financial crisis. And I'm mentioning this because pastors have got children that they need to take to school as well. Pastors have got spouses that they need to support. Pastors have got need to put food on the table as well. I'm emphasizing this, that pastors are going through this crisis in their lives. They are challenged in their lives, and generally is purely because congregations cannot think out of the box, and Christians cannot think out of the box and support their own pastors. And we're emphasizing this right now because it is very important that to highlight that pastors, when they're going through rough times like this, they don't want to find themselves to be beggars. They don't want to come out and say, I'm in financial crisis or I'm in debt and so on. And therefore, it must be that we think about it and know that they need finances in their lives and support them, therefore, in that regard. And I want to also emphasize this, that many times pastors are even afraid to teach about money in their churches, because we know that many pastors have been seen to be false pastors, false prophets that are forever looking for money, that even genuine pastors, they're afraid now to address the issue of money. And I want to emphasize that as a genuine man of and woman of God, don't be afraid to address your own congregation regarding finances. When you are running into financial problems, please address it. Speak up. Make sure that you are actually transparent with your own administrators or own church or church board or church or eldership board that you're having, or is it an executive committee? Yes, be transparent with them as well and be able to speak out that you need finances and let them rise up and be able to make sure that the pastor is well cared and taken care of. I want to speak right now to all this board of elders as well, that it is very important that board of elders actually open up their eyes to identify the needs of the pastor, to make sure that they support the pastor as the first line. These are the people that must make sure that the pastor cannot suffer while they are there. And this is very, very important that we emphasize that as well. As leaders, as people that have been appointed to become leaders, we must be the people that are the eyes and the spokesperson of the pastor as well. We are the people that are able to know the needs of the pastor so that we can be able to support and garner support from the people as well towards the pastor. Very, very important. Many pastors are actually swimming in debt. They are in financial crisis, surely because many of our congregant members just are not cognizant about this and they are not proactive to assist their pastors. Another challenge that pastors are going through that their congregations may know or may not know about and they need support in is what we call accommodation and housing problems. And some of the pastors don't have a home of their own. Some of the pastors are renting, but yet they don't even have rental money because congregants are not innovative enough. They're not thinking out of the box. They see the pastor coming every Sunday, preaching to them, and I want to emphasize that a pastor doesn't preach or doesn't use water just to come and preach. They're using finances. They need petrol for their cars. They need accommodation as well. And accommodation, therefore, becomes a very, very important thing. And I want to advise churches out there that if your pastor doesn't have accommodation of his own or of her own, it is actually the responsibility of the congregation to make sure that they assist to make sure that the pastor is being accommodated. And I must emphasize that if the rental money has to be coming from the church, let it be. If also we are capable as a congregation to build a house for the pastor and to make sure that we buy a house for them, let us make sure that we do, because it is our responsibility as Christians and as church members, as congregants as well, to make sure that our pastors are taken care of. And that is why accommodation, therefore, become a primary importance, because it is something that is very concerning when a pastor doesn't have a place of their own, or they are struggling, actually, even if they are renting, they are struggling to pay rents, they are struggling to pay bills. And that is the responsibility of the church. And I want to emphasize that as well. Now, I want to also advise pastors that there are times when a lot of money passes through your hands. And some of you, because you're being blessed by the people, some of you, because you're being invited and minister somewhere. Let accommodation be a priority, because there are those pastors as well that don't prioritize housing, that don't prioritize accommodation as well. That they will keep renting and don't actually think of buying. And I want to urge you as a pastor as well, that you need to prioritize buying and have a place of your own. You need to prioritize having a house of your own, and therefore prioritize getting a stand. And even if it means putting a shaker there, even if it means putting on a corrugated iron there, just as a home, it is a beginning, and it's actually a start of great things, because you need to start somewhere in order to have a home of your own. And this I'm emphasizing because, as I said, there are those pastors that never think that they need accommodation of their own. They never think of that they need a house of their own. It is very important that you prioritize that, and it becomes something that is in priority. when you have started, some of the congregation members will actually step in and assist when they already see that the pastor has taken a step to put on at least a shack to stay in or a small accommodation of their own. And some of the church members may step in and assist, because remember that help comes where there's already a project started already. And I want to urge pastors, therefore, to rise up, be able to identify, self-reflect as well, and say, I need accommodation of my own. I need a house where I will house my own family, and therefore I will I'll do all means, therefore, to find a stand, to find a place, to find a house, and start really making sure that I've got a house of my own where I can house my family. This is very, very important that we emphasize that. Now, congregations, rise up from your sleep. Make sure that your pastor's got accommodation. And we are having also challenges whereby in some of the churches, pastors are being put in what we call missionary houses. And I want to speak about this just before we close. That some of the pastors have been put in missionary houses, and they are moved from one place to another, staying in missionary houses, but we forget that they need houses of their own. We forget that they need homes of their own. And we have seen situations whereby when the pastor retires, he retires now, he's kicked out of a missionary house, he's got no house of his own. He's got no accommodation of his own. Therefore, he's thrown into the dungeon and his family without any accommodation. That is brutally wrong. And I must emphasize that in those churches that are accommodating pastors in missionary houses, think for those pastors. Make sure that you also assist them in having homes of their own. But I want to also advise pastors that don't stay in a missionary house forever. Think about your family in future, because when you are going to retire, you're going to need a family house. You're going to need accommodation of your own. So therefore, don't rely on a missionary house throughout of your life as a pastor. Make sure that you do some means of finding a stand, and as I've said earlier, where you can just build, even if it's a small house of your own family, that even after retirement, at least you've got a home of your own. Very, very important that we emphasize that. These are the challenges that pastors are facing every day, but I want to emphasize that we need to make sure that pastors are comfortable. They are actually assisted in these challenges. And pastors will verbalize and talk and make sure that they also become transparent with these challenges when they're going through, so that they can actually help, find help where they need help. And I know that there are many people out there that would love to help you, but you need sometimes to be very transparent as well as a pastor, that I've got this particular need. People will rise up and assist you. I want to end up here today. Your host, Micornus Phokane. Thank you very much for listening to us and being part of this great topic. What a topic that we're having. We are continuing with part 4 tomorrow. These are the battles, challenges that pastors are facing, and some of them known by their congregants, some of them not known by the congregants, but pastors are going through these challenges and would love to deal with that. Tomorrow once more as we deal with part 4. Remember, our Facebook page, Micornus Phokane, our Facebook page, Church Governance Solutions. Click a like on those Facebook pages. Make sure that you also click notification button that will notify you when we have posted videos of this kind. Remember our YouTube channel as well. It is there for you. And remember just to click that notification button as well, and after subscribing, and you will be able to be notified when we have got material of this kind. Remember also, there are a lot of materials that we have posted in the past on this Facebook page. God will bless you as you do tap into these materials, and they will help you and your church as a pastor, and may the good Lord bless you. And allow me to check out right here, your host, Micornus Phokane, the leader of Church Governance Solutions. We are restoring godly order in the house of the orderly God. And allow me to check out right here and say cheers for now.